If you were waiting for a time when the whistle would blow, that the time has come for this generation to shine. A generation is rising. A generation is rising. Can you see the relationship? This is Jesus speaking. And he's saying, you call me Lord, Lord, and yet you do not the things which I say. Can you see the relationship between his lordship in your life and you doing what he says? Can you see the relationship between confessing and not doing and the lordship of the Messiah? So you can confess that he is Lord, and yet when he looks at you, you don't qualify to call him Lord. You are not saying he is Lord by your works. So in other words, you are trying to deceive him into making him think that he is Lord with your mouth, and yet your action, your behavior says otherwise. And had it been somebody else saying this, it would have been better. You say unto me, Lord, Lord, with your mouth. This is where I saw something that scared me. There's this belief nowadays, because of, I think, the teachings on grace, where people think they will enter heaven through the confession of their mouth alone. And yet there is a verse like this one in scripture. Can you see that there is a doing that God expects, and that doing seems to be more powerful than the saying? Whosoever cometh to me and heareth. When you come to church, you have to hear. But it's one thing to have ears, and it's another to hear. They have ears, but they don't hear. So you have to make sure when you come to church, you change your ears into a hearing mechanism. Because some of you, naturally, even when others speak, you don't hear. You can be a pastor for 20 years and preach 3 times a week for 20 years. But Jesus is not able to say my sayings. So you have to be able, even as a congregant, to get into an environment and know that these are his sayings. What is being brought out is the mind of Christ. What Christ would want us to do today. The heart of Jesus today. You listen to certain sermons, but you can tell that this has got nothing to do with the mind of God. Nowadays, if you are a man of God and you are not careful, you will come to entertain people and not empower them. So when you come to church, you have to make sure you are hearing his word, his teachings. So when a minister is ministering, you try to imagine, had it been Jesus ministering, would he have been saying this? If this was Jesus talking to me today, would he be teaching me about this? Even if I use my own language as an interpreter of his heart, after I finish, I should be able to give you a take home. I should be able to give you a take home. A take home should be the mind of Christ. I'm not all right. After everything has been said and done, what is my take home? What did Jesus say to me today? So when you come to church, you must write in your notebook, take home. After the sermon is done, after the message, the preacher is done, you write, this is my take home. If you are not able to do that for 3 services, it's not his sayings, because he is the word. It doesn't end with the sayings, doing them. A generation is rising. A generation is rising. A generation is rising.